Have you ever heard of the Mandela effect? This is essentially a thing where you remember something, but the thing that you remember isn't actually the real thing. But then everyone you know also remembers the thing that is not true. The name of this came from Nelson Mandela. People believed or remembered that he died in prison when that actually was not the case. But there's definitely some more recent and more pop culture examples of this. For example, going into Star Wars, everyone assumed that Darth Vader said, "Luke, I am your father." In fact, that's what I remember it as. But in fact, what he actually says is this:
"No, I am your father."
Another famous example is the Berenstain Bears. People remember that being the name, but as it turns out, that is not the name. It's the Berenstain Bears, and everyone has been spelling it wrong the entire time. Going with a couple more that are visual, the Monopoly Man. Does he or does he not have a monocle? Turns out he does not, but for some reason people get him confused with the Peanut Man, who does indeed have a monocle. And then going back more into video games, Pokemon with Pikachu, does he or does he not have a black tail? As it turns out, this entire time there was no black on his tail whatsoever. That was just in your brain. You could look at reasons for these, like for example, Pikachu maybe getting confused with potentially Pichu, or like we said with the Monopoly Man compared to the Peanut Man. But as it turns out, this effect also applies to Call of Duty, because now Call of Duty is old enough at this point where some of the things that you remember about the game may not even be true. And I put together some examples of this, and I'm curious down in the comments, which of these did you remember, did you not remember, or were maybe you just blown away by? Let's start out with Black Ops 2. So to understand this, we have to go years later into Black Ops Cold War, because in Black Ops Cold War, they remastered a map from Call of Duty Black Ops 2 known as Standoff. And by the way, this isn't the first time it was remastered. We'll go through that as well. However, one of the pros, Illy, was playing on this map when he realized that there was this yellow sign on the map, and he tweeted it out saying, "Can you believe that 10 years later they added this sign onto the map?" And immediately it erupted in discussion amongst the community whether or not this yellow sign had been there the entire time. A bunch of people believing it was brand new, and a bunch of people believing it was there the entire time. But the community had to go back into Black Ops 2. So there are two versions of this happening. One where the sign is there and existed back in Black Ops 2, or another where the sign was never actually there and they put it in within Black Ops Cold War. I showed you both images. Let me know down in the comments which one you think was in Black Ops 2, but here it is. This is the Black Ops 2 version of the map, and lo and behold, guess what? It was there the entire time. Now, you may not remember it, and I actually think there's a pretty reasonable reason as to why people forgot about it being there. You see, number one, back in Black Ops 2, the colors weren't as vibrant as they are in Black Ops Cold War, meaning this was harder to recognize and harder to see. And on top of that, if you go over to the other side of the sign, on the other side, it is not yellow. In fact, there's not even writing on it whatsoever. So you can only see the sign with the yellow writing on one side, making it more difficult to see, and in other words, easier to forget. Now, while we're talking about Black Ops 2, I'm gonna ask you a question. Black Ops 2, as we know, has multiple endings, with various decisions throughout the campaign that make a difference by the very end of the game. My question to you is Black Ops 2 the first Call of Duty game to have this? And I'll give you a second, think about it. Think about the games that came before it. You had Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 2, even Black Ops 1. None of those games had multiple endings, but you may be forgetting about one. That is Call of Duty World at War. During the set of Japanese missions, specifically the mission called Breakpoint, there's a set of Japanese soldiers that surrender. Roebuck and Polensky both walk up to them and turn towards Miller, giving the Japanese a chance to strike. You, as an operator, Private Miller, only are able to fulfill one option. Either you save Roebuck
or you save Polinsky. Now, this is not so much the Mandela effect that it is so much just forgetting something, but if you want to know what the canon ending is, it appears as though the most likely one is the one where Sergeant Roebuck actually dies, because on the Pentagon Zombies map, you can actually see his portrait on the wall in the Battle of Peleliu in 1944.
Now, moving into Call of Duty World at War, and specifically looking at something that absolutely is the Mandela effect, dogs. When you called in dogs in this game, dogs ran around the map and took out all of your enemies. However, if you were playing as the Japanese army, the announcer would say something in particular that people in the internet have argued over. And one option is the savages have sent dogs to do their work, and the other option is the cowards have sent dogs to do their work. My question to you is, what did they actually say? Well, as it turns out, this is the correct answer.
The savages sent dogs to do their work.
So yeah, the correct answer was savages. Now, the Russian announcer does use the word cowards from time to time, but never when it's referring to dogs whatsoever. So it may come from that, or you may actually be living in an alternate reality. Like seriously, that's how some people believe the Mandela effect actually works. And a way to test if you're in that alternate reality is this question right here. If you did play Call of Duty World at War and you're one of the 4 people watching this video that actually played it on the Wii, did that version of the game have zombies or not? Now, a lot of people report that it did, but in reality, there were no zombies in Call of Duty World at War on the Wii. But like I said, not many people played it on the Wii, so there's not a big population size to take this from. Now, going back to Black Ops 1, back in the day we couldn't inspect weapons, but there was something we could do, where if you held down on the D-pad and specifically you had a pistol with a suppressor on it, it would actually twist the suppressor off the weapon. Do you remember that? Well, no, you don't, because that wasn't actually a thing. You couldn't actually do that in Call of Duty Black Ops 1, but not only that, if you thought maybe I got the game wrong or something like that, nope, that was never a thing you could ever do in a Call of Duty game, except for one thing. And if you remember it, feel free to let me know down in the comments. But if you don't remember it, here's what it is. It wasn't in Call of Duty World at War or Black Ops or any of those games. In fact, it wasn't even in a Treyarch game. It was in a Sledgehammer game, and specifically, it was an ability for the Airborne Division that midway through a game, using an SMG, you could twist on or twist off a suppressor on an SMG, not on a pistol, just on an SMG. Otherwise, it was never in a Call of Duty game. So if you remember doing that, you're a liar. The last thing that we have comes from Black Ops 1, and you may have noticed up to this point, every single game that we've talked about thus far has been a Treyarch game, which is interesting because generally they do the mind-bending campaigns. But if you'd like to see me do another video like this with other Call of Duty games or anything like that, show me by hitting that like button. The more likes a video gets, the more likely I am to dive through the internet and find more and more of these. But this one comes down to a little known thing known as Last Stand. This has been in many Call of Duty games before, but in Black Ops 1 there was something special. Well, kind of dark, really dark at that. It was the coward's way out. And do you remember when you would use the coward's way out, the enemies would see it like this? If your answer was yes, once again, you're a liar, because this was actually never in the game. This was cut content for the game, and I'm pretty sure you could easily see why. But it's weird because some people on the internet state that they did indeed see this in game before. But yeah, it was never there. It was removed before the game was even launched. Now, sorry to end on such a dark note, but whether your memory just wasn't quite working right, you're a complete liar, or maybe you're in an alternate reality, this has been the Mandela effect in Call of Duty. If you want to see more, hit the like button, subscribe, turn notifications on. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And until next time.
This sign was never there.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're